and it's timely that we're talking about this as moms. This morning I was doing laundry and I was like, what other CEO of a business that is pushing multi-millions is up at 5 o'clock folding underwear and socks and sheets?
Yeah.
And that's like real talk.
Yeah.
And you're stretched to be a wife, you're stretched to be a mom, you're stretched to be a leader, you're stretched to be in the community and connecting. So I really feel like sometimes I feel that pull. And it's, sometimes when we hear the word stretch, we think, ugh, but sometimes it's like, mm,
Hmm.
let me stretch, like it's almost like a flex and not necessarily in a bad way.
Right, right. Two, and one. Hi, and thank you for joining us today on Road to Recovery. I'm your host, Ronda Jackson, serial entrepreneur, small business advocate. And joining us today is Jennifer Carter, CEO and Executive Director of Oak Tree Learning Centers. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I love that you did this and that you do this. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Well, your stories, your journey, your contribution for emerging and established entrepreneur is pivotal. It's the way that we're going to expand our businesses and grow by, that peer-to-peer learning and that experiential side of things. So each one teach one is what I say. So
Yes.
thank you. You're welcome. Well, for those in the audience that don't know you as well as I do, will you share a little bit about yourself and Oak Tree Learning?
Sure. So my name is Jennifer Carter, as you said. I've been an educator since 1994. And so I'm actually more of an educator than a business owner. I'm still learning how to be a business owner. But our schools really focus on really high academics for children before they get into elementary school. We also have school age programs that support whatever learning we do at our center and really complement what students are learning at their K-6 school.
Mhm.
The thing that differentiates us is that we do all this while making sure that we don't have the achievement gap that is persistent among Black, Latino, and lower income students. So I created a curriculum that we'll talk about later, I'm sure we'll get into, that really addresses the idea of having high academics that are collaborative and hands-on, but most important, purposeful and meaningful.
No, I love it. And what I also wanted to make sure that we touch on and highlight that we'll touch on is how proper child care and adequate learning environments impact the family unit.
Oh,
So
for
you
sure.
are a co-founder, a co-producer, as I am, in community building here in the Southern California area. So I really want to highlight that part because once, what is it? Happy wife, happy life, right? And one of our maternal responsibilities is to our families. So I thank you for
Yes.
that. One of the other things that I like to do on the show is to ask my guests for one word that they would use to describe now. What's one word that you would just use to describe the environment now?
The the environment, the business environment, I'm gonna
Or
assume.
or not? How's your day going? How's life? How's the world at large for you? What's one word you would use to describe?
How would I describe? I would say stretched.
Oh, okay. Say a
Mhm.
little bit more.
Okay. So stretched as in, and it's timely that we're talking about this as moms. This morning I was doing laundry and I was like, what other CEO of a business that is pushing multi-millions is up at 5 o'clock folding underwear and socks and sheets?
Yeah,
And that's like real talk.
yeah,
And you're stretched to be a wife, you're stretched to be a mom, you're stretched to be a leader, you're stretched to be in the community and connecting. So I really feel like sometimes I feel that pull. And it's, sometimes when we hear the word stretch, we think, ugh, but sometimes it's like, mm,
hmm,
let me stretch, like it's almost like a flex and not necessarily in a bad way.
right, right. Or in the yoga, but also there's the notion of, use it or lose it, right? So
Yes.
stay limber and nimble and in touch. What I heard you say was in touch with all these things that
Yes,
that there's reach and there's impact that you're looking for. So I think
yes.
that's super awesome. So speaking of reach and impact, tell us a little bit about the childcare landscape. You mentioned in your introduction about learning gaps and, a little bit alluding to standardized testing and building that foundational work. Can you give us a little bit more about what's happening in the childcare landscape?
Um, so childcare in the state of California is actually in a really interesting space. And I think it's mirrored at the national level. I think everyone's under the false understanding of what childcare and school is. School is where you learn.
Okay.
Childcare is where you take your children to learn and grow and become people who can learn.
Mhm.
But I think now the expectation, talking about stretched, is that childcare is where it's babysitting, learning, health and safety, food, mental health services. Like it's a lot of things,
Right.
right? And parents, especially, are really depending on their childcare provider, whether it's a preschool like us, or a school age program, or even an elementary and high school and middle school. They're really relying on us in ways that are often outside of the bounds of our expertise.
Right.
And when parents feel frustrations with schools, I think sometimes their frustrations are in those things that are outside of our areas of expertise. We're experts at being educators. My husband's cat's bothering him. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We're experts at being educators, but sometimes parents are like, "Well, my kid is acting up, and you should be able to." And we're not behaviorists. We know language arts and math, and some ways to keep people engaged, or we're homeless, or we need services. So what's happening in childcare really is forcing providers to provide much more than just a place for children to be.
I hear.
That's radically different than it was 10 years ago, and certainly different than when we were kids.
No, I
We
hear that. I hear that. But I also hear it sounds like almost the transformational impact that you all have on families or potentially could have on families is being highlighted.
Yes.
And for the same way that a church serves the community, the same
Mhm.
way that schools essentially serve a community, it sounds like you all are becoming, childcare facilities are becoming an
Yes.
extension of those type of roles in our community. So, oh, go ahead. I'm
And
sorry.
to your point, I think, um, and it's kind of a long way to say it, I think you have varying degrees of that.
Mhm.
We are definitely connected to our community. We educate, but we make sure that we provide resources for our parents. Our parents are at our school constantly to acclimate them and train them how to have positive interactions with our schools.
Right.
Our community is at our school constantly so that parents know and teachers know what resources are available to them in just their communities. So it's very much connected.
And
But
I
that's
would.
not the case everywhere.
Right, but I also love the way that you're cultivating a community, no, excuse me, a relationship of advocacy,
Mhm.
right? So you're teaching parents actually how to take on the role of advocating for themselves and their child's in a more academia sense in middle school, in
Yeah.
elementary school, and in high school, which we do not always get the coaching and training for, right?
Right.
These are institutions that have set up a role in some communities as this is what you get, this is how we do it, and this is the only way. So to have to already set up me off at 3 and 5 years old that I can speak to my teacher, my child's teacher about what's happening in the
Mhm.
classroom or share something that's happening at home that may impact how he's acting or she is
Mhm.
acting in the classroom. I think
Right.
that's really, really dynamic because we don't get an opportunity to do that.
Right.
I don't know about how old you are, but that I was in the shut up, sit down generation. So
Yes.
yeah. So to have an opportunity or to embrace an opportunity for there to be this collaboration on
Mhm.
child rearing, child educating, and creating those positive citizens of the world. I thank you for that, and I commend you for that work.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. No,
I
you're
mean, it
welcome.
really is collaborative. And especially, I think this might be a little bit of a segue into what we're talking about today, especially in the space of working parents. And I know we we really focus on single moms, but we have so many single dads. Um, we are really co-parents,
Hmm.
right? So we collaborate, little Rhonda's having trouble at school. Well, she did this at class. What's she doing at home? Well, how are you doing it? Oh. And the advocacy then becomes a conversation.
Yeah.
It's not, people walking in with a baton saying, charging like, you must do these things. It's really collaborative. It's really conversational, and it's focused on the child, right?
Yes.
And the child's well-being and the child's growth, and not something that's more arbitrary, like your parents' preference or their schedule or things like that, because that's real. We also have to keep in mind, as working parents, doing 2 hours of homework is actually 2 more hours for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so helping put a context in whatever environment children are learning, and then being able to have conversations to schools to say, you know what, we can't get homework done because I have another job. So what do you suggest?
Oh, I
As
love it.
opposed to, we ain't doing that, or I am not doing, it's a much different conversation.
Yeah, you made me think of peas and carrots, right? Don't think about the preference, don't think about the taste. It's a vegetable, it's healthy, you get your vitamins. So if you're at the macro of the goals, then
Right,
everything is hunky dory. But if you get down
right.
into trying to separate peas and carrots, then
That's a
you'll
very
be
good
in one. And
analogy.
it's just and a distraction, right? So how would you say, so as a mom, right, caring for a family,
Mhm.
how do you correlate that with the work that you do? Are there intentionalities about the way that you even run your business, especially serving other moms and dads, and some of them may be entrepreneurs, versus or how you don't, or things that you incorporate or wish you had when your children were a little younger that you're incorporating now?
In my business, or in like how I'm operating the business, or in my school?
Okay, let's two questions. I love both answers. I'm very curious to see how close or similar or different either answer is. So let's talk about you in your business.
Okay.
Okay.
So me and my business, so I don't look old enough to have children this age, but my kids are 25 and almost 20, wait, 20, almost 26 and 28. So my kids are
Oh,
big. They're
okay.
big boys. We started a little bit early, and I'm still in my early 50s, right? And so I have the luxury of being all in. I can eat, drink, sleep my business 24 hours a day, and
Right.
I'm not shortchanging anybody.
Mhm.
And I think that for me, because of my personality, I get hyper super focused. And, for me and my personality, I think that thankfully my kids were out of the house when we started the business. I've only been in business since 2018.
Right. You had shared that. Okay.
And so my kids they were in college and on their way.
Mhm.
But even still, they come home, and I'm married, to have a family life. I think I curate both. I curate what it means to be a business owner, and I curate what it means to be a mom.
Mhm.
And I I I had a conversation on my podcast with a mom who, because it's for parents, teachers, and administrators, and she's in the C-suite, having trouble balancing. And I said, you know what? There's only 100%.
Mhm.
You can't be a 100% everything.
Right.
Sometimes you're a 20% mom and an 80% business owner.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're a 10% business owner and a 90% mom.
Mhm.
And so I think what I've done is, when I need to be mom, then I can give more. So I may still check my messages when we're opening Christmas gifts or something,
Right.
right? But when I need to be a business owner, then I'm full in. And I may slip a text to my son, but I'm really in,
Right.
right? And being able to focus and not having that expectation. And I think that's where people run amok, is they have an expectation that you can be everything to everybody,
Mhm.
and you literally cannot. You really cannot do that effectively and expect any longevity in what you do.
You made me think of the book of Tea. It's a Sikh book, and
Mm,
T stands for truth, accept, no, truth, expectations, and acceptance.
mm.
So to have, are you going to, and what I heard you say is, are you going to accept the fact that it's 80% today or that it's 20% one way or the other, and,
Right,
move forward and operate
right,
accordingly? And that's one way that I've seen you in the work that you do. If I'm only 20% parent and I've have those open lines of communication, I can ask you for that, keep an eye out for, or today was Billy's birthday and
right,
here's some
right,
lollipops. Please sing him a happy
right,
birthday. Mommy will
right,
do her part later,
right.
but at least he feels that he's had his moment. I can check the box that I've helped orchestrated or facilitated. And then when we come back together again, we can pick up where we left off as mother and son. So I appreciate that type of environment and that type of conversation. So are there things in the business now that you offer, knowing and understanding and having a compassion and empathy for parenting?
I would say our business is really constructed for parents
Okay.
and working people. We do not have a business model that allows for yoga moms.
Ah,
We don't have drop off. We don't even have full part-time. We have a full-time program.
mm-hmm,
And that is because it's developmentally appropriate for kids, and it matches the reality of most of our parents who work 8-hour jobs and sometimes 2 shifts. We're actually thinking about extending our hours into the evening so that if we have parents that go to work, they pick their children up and then they go to work, they may be able to drop them off with us so that we can keep them until they pick up, because we really do see ourselves as co-parents.
mm-hmm,
So a couple of things that we do that are very different. All of our programming happens at the very, very beginning of the day or the very, very end. So parent teacher conferences, the school play, the special events, because you can get to work an hour late, but you can't get to work, leave for an hour and come back,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So you can leave work an hour late or an hour early, but again, you can't pop in and out. So our day really is constructed so that it fits
Mhm.
parent schedules.
I love that. And the parent participation is probably through the charts too, and fulfillment and not feeling like you missed out on your child's. And for some of these parents, you're experiencing their child's first, their
Right.
first correct spell word, their first color they identified, their first shape that they saw. So I love the fact that you are accommodating just reality, right? It's
Yeah.
not, like you said, it's not all of us can be yoga moms. We can't, drop off, come back at 10, come and have lunch with them, and then, do all of these other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I like the other thing that I like, and maybe you can speak more to this, is the environment where the child is becoming empowered, that they're becoming the individuals and they're being able to explore their personality and the dynamics of that personality with other children their age. Can you speak a little more about that dynamic and experience for the child?
I'll reframe it a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll use my world famous example.
Okay.
Um, Especially as high achieving parents, we're like, what's your STEM program? Is little baby going to be spelling and doing math? And when do you start calculus, or whatever your expectation of learning is?
Yeah.
And I always tell people the smartest people in the world are NASA astronauts who go up and they are in space for a year at a time.
Okay.
But just imagine their social skills. You're
Mm,
in a space this big for a year.
right.
So imagine their emotional intelligence. Ooh, I'm getting on your nerves. Oh,
Love it.
you're tired. Let me do that, right?
Right, right,
So
right.
their social skills are impeccable. Their emotional skills, to have the comportment and to have the patience and the focus to stay in space and not be stressed out and not worry and not see something flying through the ether and say, oh my God, we're all going to die, and panic and
Yeah.
wig out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always point out to folks that those are the things that we grow,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
right? I don't worry about, I mean, I worry about academics. Don't
Mm-hmm.
get me wrong. But our goal is to make sure those social and emotional skills are on point,
Mhm.
because when they have a problem in class, like if there's something that's challenging, you have to have the emotional intelligence to say, you know what, I need help. Hey, teacher, I
Yes,
don't understand this.
yes, yes.
If you're in a group with someone and you want to poke their eyes out, you have to have the social skills not to poke their eyes out.
Well, maybe that's not a good idea.
Right. Right.
I
So
love
the
it.
academic, in order to really properly facilitate academic learning, you really have to master those things.
Mhm.
And so we do projects. I prefer to call them experiences, because children have the experience of putting on our trunk or treat. They have the experience of building different booths for Earth Day. They have the experience of learning about Martin Luther King and what it means to be in community service. They have
Okay.
the experience of putting on a fiesta at the end of the year, where they plan the food and the dance and the decoration and the music and all those things,
Mhm.
right? And in that, it's constant collaboration, but it's also academic skill. So you can't put on Earth Day if you don't understand the concept of decomposition. So how
Mhm.
are you going to have a compost pile and not understand that concept, that things deteriorate and there's a process and it's chemical based? These are 3-year-olds.
Yes.
And we talk about that, like this is decomposing. And
Yes.
parents are like, why does my kid know what a decomposition is? I don't what? I'm like, my
That's
kid gotta understand
beautiful.
composting.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. And this is the point in time when their brains are sponges. So let's kind of I want to just expand that. So we've created the child as the nucleus of this conversation, and all this is for the betterment of the child. And we talked about the co-parenting between the school, the mother, the father.
Mhm,
Can we expand that conversation on what it's like? And I want to hone in on entrepreneurship,
mhm,
what it's like to create that nucleus, that family nucleus as an entrepreneur. And if you can even speak to a family of choice versus a family of origin, right? So
mm,
I am not from Los Angeles. I don't have a sister, brother, uncle, cousin necessarily here locally. And how would I expand my network, my family? And I'm talking shoes off, socks, fried chicken, hand in the pants family, right? As far as being a business owner.
yes.
Mhm.
So how do we facilitate that at the school, or how do I do
So
that in my
supported your views, any advice that you might have as far as building out that network, how does tapping into a school or school selection, whether it's yours or,
Mhm.
something else in another person's area, play a role in creating that nucleus?
I think if you join our school, it's easy, right?
Hmm.
Because, like I said, we have parents there all the time, and what ends up happening is parents are like, "Oh, weren't you here last time?"
Hmm.
And what I find, and maybe you'll edit this out,
No.
I don't know,
No.
but I find that oftentimes people who are in economically challenged neighborhoods don't necessarily know how to build those connections, and I think that's because it's you're dropping your kid off, you're going home. You have your family, you have your people you trust,
Mhm.
and you don't necessarily want to put your kids out there. You're just going to, you may have some reservations about, like, you know, can I trust you to have a play date with my child?
Yeah.
No, we're just going to play with the kids in the neighborhood that we know.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so we operate in communities where oftentimes that's the case, where the concept again of, well, I shouldn't say concept, but the luxury of having the free time to have a play date on a Saturday,
Right.
that's a middle class luxury,
Right. Right. Right.
you
Versus
know,
working overtime, picking up an extra shift, or yeah,
or
or
just
having
being
other,
tired.
yeah, or I was gonna say, or having just a chance to reset. Yes. No. Understand.
We have a lot of Amazon factory workers and things like that. That's physical labor. They're doing 10 hours at a time. They're not trying to holler at you on a Sunday afternoon,
To
right?
coordinate drop-offs and pickups. No.
Right.
Understood.
So
Understood.
what we do is at our schools, we have events in the evening that give people opportunities. So like you would say, oh, this is your friend, this is your buddy. Oh, hi, I'm Joshua's mom.
Right.
Oh, hi, I'm Michael's mom. Hi, I'm Olivia's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then you meet because your kids are buddies, and then you start to talk about their friendship. Oh, she always talks about this. They love this together. And then you have a little network of people. And so, what we do in terms of building out that support system is give you opportunity to chat and just naturally let conversations happen in the context of. I love Earth Day because we usually get a giant tent and we fill it with butterflies and we let parents go in and we let
Oh,
kids go
oh.
in. So butterflies are landing on you and you get to see who freaks out over insects really fast, right?
I love it.
But then parents step out and they're like, "Oh my God, I did. I would." And the reactions and it's from a place of joy and it's a place of curiosity and exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is universal. We don't get to play around like that. I mean, I'm always happy because my job is always thinking about fun stuff,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
always playing. And when I was the director of our school starting out, I would go out onto the playground and play foursquare. I'm really athletic, and people are, the kids are like, "You're old, you can't." So we played dodgeball, and I would beam them, and they're like, "Wait a minute, did that just happen?" Like it absolutely did.
Can I hit a
And,
teacher?
no, did the teacher hit me?
No,
And
I'm saying, can I get her back?
then when the parent comes, the kids are like, "Do you know what just happened?" And they're not like. They're like, "Oh my God, the most crazy thing. This lady beat me." And
Yes.
so it starts a conversation that is from a whole different place,
Mm.
right? Both with our teachers and the families, with our kids and each other, even with our parents and other kids, because other kids are like, "Oh, come over here and we're building this, and your kids over here, or you're just a random adult, you need to participate." I mean, it just changes the dynamic to really build community in a way that is fantastic. And I'm not saying this doesn't happen at other schools, but I know it happens often and
Right.
richly at our schools.
Right. So then what would your advice be? What would be your advice for building strong support systems, to help enhance a family unit? Just overall, what would be your biggest piece of advice?
So to I would say do stuff, which
Mm.
it sounds so simple.
Mhm.
Do stuff. Go to the park. And everyone leaves their device in the car.
Okay. Mhm.
So
So
go to the park.
yes, connect, not in via Wi-Fi, but connect.
Because if you're at the park and you're just standing there and there's a swing, I guarantee watch adults. If there's a swing and they don't have a phone, they're going to get on the swing and start swinging.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a slide, even if they kind of size it up like, am I too wide to fit in there? But you see adults like participating. So go to a park, go to a museum, go to a show, go for a walk. I mean, we're immensely blessed in Southern California that we have hiking and
Yes.
beaches and neighborhoods that are cool. Like when my kids were little, we would just go to, Silver Lake, or we would go to Leimert Park, or we would go and just walk around. And it's like being in a museum. And you pick up an item and you're like, "Wait, where's this from?" And then suddenly the shopkeeper, "Oh, I got this," and they tell you this elaborate
Yes.
story. And I was on my way to Mozambique, and the kids like, "What's Mozambique?" And then they're suddenly getting a geography lesson. And oh, by the way, then the shopkeeper knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes we formalize learning and we formalize experience rather than letting it be organic and natural.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't necessarily know how to let it be organic and natural because we're in our car or we're in our digital space and not really in the world and interacting with the world.
No, but also I'm glad you came back to that because you're also talking about the organic connections of people, of
Yes.
heart to heart. So I appreciate you saying that. Well,
Yes.
if someone is interested in participating in your school, hearing more about your learning process, or have someone that they'd like to refer to you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Okay, so you can just go to our website, which is oaktreelearningcenter.com. There is a contact us button. Right now, we're doing a couple of things. We're enrolling at our schools in Los Angeles, and then we also have a program in San Bernardino that is basically like a state preschool. So our fees are going to be reduced for parents who join that school. So that's a
Oh,
great opportunity for parents out there.
yeah, yeah.
And then we're always actively looking to partner with schools and churches that may have centers that aren't thriving and that may need management. So we also do that as well.
Oh, lovely. And so we'll include all of that information down below in the description box. I don't know another way to thank you than just with those two words. Thank you for sharing, for imparting the not just the knowledge, but the encouragement, right? That, the parenting journey, it's not something mapped out in a handbook. The name of this show is Road to Recovery because we're always recovering from something. I'm recovering from a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old. That's a recovery process. So thank you for sharing just in these moments, the tips and advice to keep us all connected and well. So I appreciate you, Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom and giving opportunities to people to share what they know and what obstacles that people can avoid.